Well, how's everyone doing? My name is Patrick McCarty. I am the branch manager for the R.G. Bolden Annabelle Moore Library here in Jackson, Mississippi. And for Star Wars Day, May the 4th, I will be presenting a very special presentation to each and every one of you. So without further ado, let's get started. Long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away. Star Wars. Okay, the Star Wars Saga is what this presentation is called. And as I mentioned, it's presented by me. My name is Patrick McCarty. I am, as I mentioned, the library manager for the R.G. Bolden Annabelle Moore Library here in Jackson, Mississippi. In the beginning, of course, there was George Lucas, the creator, the man behind it all. The man, myth, legend himself, Mr. George Lucas. George Lucas was born May 14th, 1944, and he saw many inspiring films in film class that would lead to him, I guess you can say his envisioning or his conceptualization of Star Wars. He was involved in other projects prior to Star Wars. Finian's Rainbow is an example, and then, of course, he directed American Graffiti, which was an extremely successful film in the early 70s. He was born and raised in Modesto, California. He graduated from high school in 1962 and attended Modesto Junior College. Lucas then transferred to the University of Southern California, USC, and their School of Cinematic Arts. Creation of Star Wars. Lucas set his sights on adapting Flash Gordon, but was unable to obtain the rights, so he set out to write an original space adventure that would eventually become Star Wars. And it was the success of American Graffiti which led to really the creation of the Star Wars project, I should say, and his association with Alan Ladd Jr. at 20th Century Fox. Star Wars, of course, was sort of a combination, a hybrid of different influences, cinematic influences like samurai films, spaghetti westerns, as well as classic sword and sorcery fantasy films. The original Star Wars film went through a Lucas negotiation for advantage in certain aspects of his contract, in particular ownership of licensing and merchandising rights for novelization, clothing, toys, etc. Lucas would direct the original trilogy, A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi, and the prequels, Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and Revenge of the Sith. The original trilogy, A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi, as you can see, they were released in 3-year intervals. The first being released on May the 25th, 1977. The second, May the 21st, 1980. That was Empire Strikes Back. The third, Return of the Jedi, May the 25th, 1983. As I said, they were all released in the month of May and in 3-year intervals. Star Wars cast or characters for the original trilogy, episodes 4 through 6. Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker, Harrison Ford as Han Solo, Carrie Fisher as Princess Leia, James Earl Jones did the voice of Darth Vader, Ian McDiarmid portrayed Emperor Palpatine, and Billy D. Williams as Lando Calrissian. Star Wars background. It centers on Luke Skywalker's quest to become a Jedi, his struggle with the evil Darth Vader who turns out to be his father. The overall conflict between the Rebel Alliance and the Galactic Empire is also a focal point of the series. And, of course, Luke and the Rebels are victorious, and they free the galaxy from the yoke of darkness and hatred manifested in the Galactic Empire and the evil Emperor Palpatine, or Darth, but would later, of course, go on in the prequels, he would be known as Darth Sidious, but Emperor Palpatine. But we'll get to that. Additional Star Wars information, as you can see, the budget for the trilogy, box office. Star Wars trilogy became iconic and was a defining characteristic of Generation X. That the generation is defined as those individuals born from 1965 to 1980. Star Wars prequel. So we're jumping ahead now chronologically in terms of our timeline, but as far as the Star Wars timeline is concerned, we're moving back. We're going back in time. The Phantom Menace was released on May the 19th, 1999. Attack of the Clones, Phantom Menace is Episode 1, Attack of the Clones is Episode 2. It was released on May the 16th, 2002. Revenge of the Sith was released on May the 19th, 2005. So it's a similar pattern here. As you can see, these films, like the original trilogy, were released in 3-year intervals, and all were released in the month of May. Okay, the cast, you have Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi, Liam Neeson as Qui-Gon Jinn, Natalie Portman as Padme Amidala, Queen Amidala, Ian McDiarmid as Palpatine, initially Senator Palpatine, and then Supreme Chancellor Palpatine, and then finally Emperor Palpatine. He also plays the Dark Lord of the Sith, Darth Sidious. They were one and the same, but it's an alias. Hayden Christensen plays Anakin Skywalker and Darth Vader. The prequel history, according to the original trilogy produced by Gary Kurtz, loose plans for a prequel trilogy were developed during the outlining of the original 2 films. In 1980, Lucas confirmed that he had the 9-film series plotted, but due to the stress of producing the original trilogy and pressure from his wife to settle down, he decided to cancel further sequels by 1981. However, technical advances in the late 80s, early 90s involving CGI inspired Lucas to consider that it might be possible to revisit his saga. 1992, Lucas acknowledged that he had plans to create the prequel trilogy. The popularity of the expanded universe prolonged the success of the series. The first film, Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, sees the Jedi coming into contact with the young Anakin Skywalker and the corruption of the Galactic Senate perpetrated by Palpatine, Darth Sidious. Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, jumps ahead 10 years and finds Anakin, now a Jedi apprentice to Obi-Wan Kenobi, pursuing a forbidden romance with Padme Amidala, as well as the outbreak of the Clone Wars. Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, the first, and I just recently, I think I'd known this at the time, but forgot about it. This was the first PG-13 film in the entire franchise. It was released on May the 19th, 2005, and it depicts Anakin's fall to the dark side of the Force and his rebirth as Darth Vader, as well as the destruction of the Jedi and the fall of the Republic. Okay, additional prequel information. The budget, box office, as you can see, the prequels weren't as successful or iconic as the original trilogy, but they have a dedicated and loyal fan base, largely comprised of millennials who were children at the time of their release. So a number of millennials look back fondly on the prequels like Gen X does on the original trilogy, episodes 4 through 6. So they're not as iconic as the original trilogy. This trilogy is not as iconic as the original trilogy, but I think with the passing of time, a number of people have kind of revised or reconsidered their opinion on the trilogy, and it does have a pretty loyal and dedicated fan base and following. Now, jumping ahead, the sequels. Of course, The Force Awakens was released on December 18th, 2015. The Last Jedi, December 15th, 2017. The Rise of Skywalker was released on December 20th, 2019. So, 2-year intervals instead of 3, and these films were released in December instead of May. The cast, Daisy Ridley as Rey, John Boyega as Finn, Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker. He revises his role as Skywalker. Ditto Harrison Ford and Han Solo. Ditto Carrie Fisher as Princess Leia or General Leia. Adam Driver as Kylo Ren. Oscar Isaac as Poe Dameron. And Ian McDiarmid as old reliable Emperor Palpatine. He's actually in all 3 of the trilogies. Ian McDiarmid is as Palpatine. The Star Wars sequel history. Like the prequels, the sequels were envisioned by Gary Kurtz and George Lucas. In 1992, Lucas announced his intentions to produce a prequel trilogy. In 2008, after the release of the prequel trilogy, Lucas said the movies were the story of Anakin and Luke Skywalker, and when Luke saved the galaxy and redeemed his father, that's where the story ended. In May 2011, Lucas was in Orlando, Florida to celebrate the opening of Star Tours. He was invited to breakfast by Disney CEO Bob Iger, who asked Lucas if he would be willing to sell his company to Disney. Lucas considered directing episode 7 for a May 2015 release and then selling his company, but decided to leave the franchise in the hands of other filmmakers. By 2012, Lucas had agreed to sell his company, and Kathleen Kennedy would replace Lucas as president of Lucasfilm. As announced by Lucasfilm, the sequel trilogy meant the end of most of the existing expanded universe. Only episodes 1 through 6 would remain canon to the franchise, now obviously all 9, as well as the Clone Wars animated film and series. Unlike the previous 2 trilogies, whose films were released approximately 3 years apart and ahead of Memorial Day weekend, the sequel films were released 2 years apart from each other in December. Episode 7, The Force Awakens, takes place 30 years after the destruction of the second Death Star. Luke Skywalker has vanished, and the remnants of the Empire have become the First Order, which seeks to destroy Luke and the New Republic. The First Order is opposed by the Resistance, led by General Leia Organa. Kylo Ren is the leader of the First Order. Ren, Ben Solo, is the son of Leia and Han, and has fallen to the dark side. Ren and Rey fight, but the fight, and this is Episode 7, The Force Awakens, but the fight concludes with neither winning. Episode 8, The Last Jedi, tells the continuing story of the First Order versus the Resistance. The film reintroduces us to Leia, now General of the Resistance, and Luke Skywalker, who trains Rey. Rey and Kylo Ren battle in the second episode, The Last Jedi, resulting in Ren killing his master Snoke. Kylo Ren then becomes the leader of the First Order and travels to Exegol, and this is in Episode 9, by the way, the Rise of Skywalker, and encounters a revived Emperor Palpatine, which leads to a final confrontation between Rey and Palpatine for the survival of the galaxy. Now, the expanded universe, I wanted to include some of the video games. You have the Star Wars, the initial Star Wars game for the arcade Atari, Star Wars Empire Strikes Back for the Atari, Return of the Jedi for the Atari, The Phantom Menace for the PlayStation, Gen 1, PlayStation 1, Attack of the Clones for GameCube, PlayStation 2, Xbox, Revenge of the Sith for PlayStation 2, Xbox, the X-Wing series, Jedi Knight, Rogue Squadron, Galactic Battlegrounds, Knights of the Old Republic, and The Force Unleashed. Now for the novels. I want to include the novels as well, which are very popular. The X-Wing series, Jedi Knight series, Rogue Squadron, Galactic Battlegrounds, Knights of the Old Republic, Force Unleashed, Galaxy of Fear, The Bounty Hunter Wars, Thrawn, the Dark Empire, Young Jedi Knights, The New Jedi Order, Legacy of the Force, are some examples of Star Wars novels. And now the Mandalorian series, which is very popular right now. It's on Disney Plus. It's a space television series, first live-action Star Wars series, in fact, and it centers around a character, a bounty hunter, and his relationship with a character originally colloquially known as Baby Yoda. And there are a series of other characters that are introduced, or in some cases reintroduced, especially in Season 2, as you can see. Even Mark Hamill is in Season 2. So, The Mandalorian is a very popular series, and it's really allowing Star Wars to continue to be very much in the limelight, in the center of attention. It's a great series as well. Okay, now here are just a few of the sources that I used in constructing this PowerPoint, this presentation. The saga continues, right? The saga continues. Star Wars is very much alive and continues to have a profound, considerable, substantial impact on the hearts and minds of many people throughout the world, regardless of age, really. I mean, it has a large, loyal, dedicated following. So the saga continues, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention this, of course. May the Force be with you, always. Thank you for your participation, your attendance. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. And the end. Thanks, everyone.